Right on. Welcome back. WrenchNation.tv. I know a lot of you will dip in out of the show, get onto the website. You can watch it at your leisure or catch the Sunday podcast upload. I'll remind you, we actually did coverage on two topics: electric vehicle latest news, that we went knee deep in that. Also promoting the Automotive Service Association Shop to Shop event. If you're in the industry, it's a great way to network. That's John Firm and Jeff Buckley. Lastly, avoiding diesel technician burnout. I know a lot of you diesel technicians, you're dealing with the same thing that we deal with regarding gas, and that's technology. And we were honored to have CEO talent Tyler Robertson of Diesel Laptops. That's show number 268. Please catch those shows over a nice beverage. And, of course, get in the comments. We'd love to hear your show topic ideas. In 1987, way back, Vic Tarasic opened up a shop in his home garage. A lot of us started very small. We didn't just have buku money and said, let's open up a Taj Mahal. Vic grew that into a 14-bay automotive maintenance repair facility out of Woodland, Texas. And after almost 30 years of successfully running that, he had some pain along the way, but in the end, very successful. He sold his shop, and now he has been running as one of the industry-leading coaches for the automotive industry. Let's welcome Vic Tarasic. What's happening, Vic?
It's good to hear, man.
Yeah, no, and we go back, man, way back to the Bottom Line Impact Groups, which is a great coaching group, and I was always fond. You had a big sign in front of your shop, and I'm like, man, I wish I had that big sign in front of my place. But I think the camaraderie was there, and I want to go back before we get into this whole topic of why, I wanted to tackle this from the direction as to why folks wouldn't attain a business coach. I think if we can examine, of course, we're going to talk benefits, but I think we can get into their heads as to why they may be on the fence. But I got to go back in time with you. Like me, did you think you could do it all? And maybe there was a period way back when you started your business that you said, hey, I got this. And ultimately, that wasn't the case.
Wow, that is a very revealing question, because for the first 15 years of my operation, I had not a clue what I was doing business-wise. I was a fantastic technician, could fix my way out of any problem, fix anything. But, when it came to marketing and human resources and the finances and hiring and firing, no one trained me to do that.
That's, that seems to be a big dilemma. We're great at what we do under hood. Like we love fixing cars, and we love people that come through, and we want to be their heroes. But at the end of the day, we got a lot of anxiety because we did all this work, and maybe the money didn't come in because we didn't properly price things out to actually take care of the consumer with the right quality work and such.
Well, and I think that's part of the intrinsic issue, is because where do we get the reward as a technician? Is that job well done? And when a customer comes in and they thank you and they're all smiles, that is a huge part of the reward. But what I think a lot of technicians turned shop owners don't think about is the knowledge they've gained over the years and the value in their brain power. They look at how easy it is for them, and unfortunately, they minimize sometimes what the billing is because of the customers are really thankful, and that's sometimes where you can get into trouble. Is normally in the pricing strategies, giving something away, getting a discount. I had a coaching compadre who used to say, he said, I'd rather sit in a bay, do nothing, than work in the bay next to it and not make any money.
Yeah, and I think consumers listening can respect this. I don't want them to take away that automotive mechanics that are going to business are becoming rich overnight like that. I think what we're talking about is the sustenance of staying in business to offer great value, and you just can't do that when you don't know how to structure price to pay technicians what they're worth. I want to go back to what you said. I find it very interesting. I talk to a lot of shop owners like you do. Sometimes our machines are well run. Those are the folks that are in the 20 groups, and they're in the coaching, and they've made lots of mistakes. And sometimes our technicians may think it's a lot easier because we've got it to a point where it's streamlined. We've reduced the anxiety, and they turn around and say, well, I can do that.
Right. Well, they look at the well-run shop, but they weren't exposed to the shop that was poorly run, and they consider that an overnight success. But it was an overnight success. It was 15 years in the making, sometimes 30.
Yeah, no doubt. Vic, let me ask you. You're running your shop for many years.
Mm-hmm.
What triggered you, man? What was your passion? You sold your shop.
Right.
What triggered you to get into coaching? You could have just went fishing, man.
I could have, and it was funny, Frank. When I sold my shop, I sold it right, and I was in my brain I was going to retire, and I always had a joy being part of a 20 group, of working with other shop owners and helping them be more successful in the 20 group. But I thought, heck, this is my time to chill and, like, say, go fishing or work on some classic cars. But honestly, after the first 60 days, I got bored.
This is what happens when you're working 30 years. You can't just stop. It's not like you're going to go fishing and basket weaving. This is a normal phenomenon.
No. And so, I look back onto that day that I got so fed up one day. It was like, it's 15 years into running the business, and I got so fed up with my back was against the wall, and I had read articles in Motor Magazine. Our Bob O'Connor, he speaks to a lot of people, and he's kind of like the coaching tree of analogous with the Andy Reid coaching tree in the NFL today. And I got back from home one day, and I put in a whole bunch of feedback information, and I wanted help, and I wanted help right away.
Bob O'Connor was an industry icon, original playbook designer, and I'm in the same boat as you. I was completely stunned about how much I did get wrong by way of what I thought I knew. I mean, you only know what you know, and we have to take folks back a little bit, because that was like borderline pre-internet. Like Mitch Schneider Motor Age magazine articles is what was saving us. And those of you that know from that generation. But I want to back up a little bit for those that are not familiar. They may be 1 or 2 year shop owners. What is a 20 group?
Well, the best way to put it is, a group of shop owners that are, anywhere from 15 to 20 meet in one location or do it virtually, but they do it with the guidance of a coach. Look at it like a football team. You have a bunch of players on the field. They all know their position, but do they know how to work through those positions well? They have a coach to help them get through that. And what a 20 group does is it brings all these shop owners together from non-competitive markets. And here's the critical component about this being a non-competitive market, is because you can be totally transparent about what's going on and not worry about what someone might say or judge you, because that's the only way you're going to get help.
That a lot of initial members of a 20 group may take a few months to learn that they don't need to lie to themselves anymore.
Oh, heck yeah. Well, it's funny. You and I first met. It was, 2006 when we met in Denver. And that was the very first meeting for you and another member. And I remember that meeting really well, because this one member was very resistant. And every meeting he was very resistant. And it would keep going on for probably almost a year and a half. And then this member started to listen and started to change. And his business began to develop and grow. What
changed him? Let's dive into that. This 20 group, they hold you to the fire. They're not playing around, because otherwise a 20 group just doesn't really exist. If folks are just too much kumbaya and they don't get down with the pain of facing truth. Can you talk to me a little deeper on that? Because I think there is some intimidation with folks that may not want to join a 20 group because they're comfortable with the 1 or 2 white lies that they're saying about their business, and they're living with an emotional bank account and a touchy-feelsy roadmap. How do you tear that open?
Well, a lot of it comes down to getting them focusing on what's ahead. Asking tough questions like, when are you going to retire? Because a lot of shop owners today are in their prime, 30s, 40s. But we also know a lot of shop owners that are in their late 50s today that never thought of retirement, and now retirement's on the horizon, they're in trouble. And so how do we get them to start looking at things? Is we get them not looking at the now, we get them looking ahead, but seeing what the decisions they make today, the impact it's going to make on them down the road in the future. Man, it's like, you fly cross country. If you hopped on a plane leaving Phoenix and you were going to New York, and that plane got knocked off course by, a half a degree, would you land in New York?
Yeah, we don't know. We don't know. I think a lot of us, and I certainly speak for myself, certainly you speak for yourself and many others, when we start something, we get so excited. We have the adrenaline. We know we can do it. We believe it. We're wholeheartedly siding up with the right thing by people. Most understand that, but we just don't have a clue about the exit of the journey. And I think that is actually going to open somebody and shock somebody up to step up when you ask that phrase, because that'll get somebody to think. Here you are in your business. Well, what's your plan? How do you plan on exiting? I don't care if you're 30, 40, 50, 60. What's your goal here?
Well, and that's Stephen Covey's one of his 7 habits of highly effective people. Begin with the end in mind. You start something, you should always think about the end, because, Frank, a shop owner listening, or a tech that's going to be a shop owner, has got to remember one thing. At some point, he will sell his business one way or another, either on his terms or on someone else's terms. There's always going to be an exit. And that can be the something that rocks the world. But it goes back to the Stephen Covey, begin with the end in mind.
And during that process, so it's a healthy end. That could be 20 years, that could be 5 years, that could be 30 years.
Right.
There are metrics to the business, and I want to bring this up. Why not just get all this stuff on YouTube and online? What is wrong with that ideology? I mean, the internet's powerful.
It is powerful, but can the internet be wrong?
Yeah, who would say that? Hashtag fake news, right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, here, I kind of line it up this way. Taking information that's given to you, one, that free and by someone who is not necessarily credible, is kind of like taking marriage advice from somebody that's been married 4 times.
Yeah, let me ask you something. So I've heard this argument. You triggered me on this thought, and I say this cautiously, and I say this respectfully. Are the best coaches ones that have actually done it, made money, and were successful? Or can you be born as someone that can lead and motivate people without actually having any sort of business background? I find that not just in our industry, but there are coaches out there, and I'm like, where did they come from?
Well, you remember Bob Greenwood.
God bless him, man. Great Canadian.
Yeah, great guy. One of the most successful coaches out there, before he left us. Bob never owned an automotive shop. He was steeped in business. He understood metrics. And what was good about him coming into the industry, he looked at it differently than all of us other coaches. In fact, in a group of us coaches got together, he would challenge all of us in the way we thought.
He was very dynamic, and he always dressed to the nines as a true professional, and would always deliver. I think his phrase was, "Why aren't you the CEO of your business?" kind of thing, right? He made you think, and you're like, man, I just want to fix cars and keep a couple people happy. But he did. And I don't know what Canadians are drinking in their water, and I'm just going to say this, but there's a ton of great coaches coming out of Canada. I remember our facilitator, John Waffler. I believe he is still around. Of course, your good friend and partner, I'm going to talk more about that, the Apex gig, Murray Voth, another great coach who's out of Canada. Regionally, they're putting out these quarterbacks out of Canada for our industry, these coaches.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, yes. I'm being silly with it, but it seems like there's a high rate of good coaching coming out of Canada.
There really is. And, one of the things that Canada's got going on is there is a culture of training. It starts in the bays, and it moves its way to the front. And these, the coaches like Murray. I mean, man, Murray, he rocks it. Absolutely rocks it. I mean, he also comes from the Bob O'Connor tree. He thinks very similarly, and that's one of the reasons why he and I connect so well together, is because we have similar visions, and we both push each other too. We make each other better coaches.
Well, that's what it's about. Yeah. While you guys are listening, I want you to check out shopownercoach.com as we're discussing this with just joining us, Vic Tarasic, who has been around for many years, shopownercoach.com. And, of course, Murray Voth. We tried to get Murray on. It was so last minute. I wanted to discuss this and help get your good works at Apex on the map, rpmtraining.net. While we discuss this further, you guys take a gander there. Going back to the discipline, you mentioned Canada, back shop. They seemed a bit more disciplined. Do you find that a lot of us here in the States, you visited a lot of shops, I've seen a lot of shops, we get so busy where it's just like maybe there's 4 or 5 things that we're doing right that's good enough, but we're just running and gunning, and we end up on the defense of our business, and the anxiety is just kicked up notches because something's happened and we weren't prepared for it.
It's so common because we as shop owners can put on the fireman hat. Going from fire to fire, putting it out, and it becomes more reactionary in the way we operate our business than planned. Chubby Fredericks, the former ATI owner, he used to say, "You can't run a business from under a car on a creeper." I love that, and I think that's the challenge is, and I had that challenge, was pulling myself out of the shop and moving up front and then moving into being a business owner. Part of that is uncomfortable. I mean, if you think about it, we've been so uncomfortable turning wrenches. We're under a car. Cars don't argue back in most cases. And we're so comfortable working in that environment, it's a little more difficult to get into the business environment. But man, once you get in there and start focusing on the planned chaos of the business, because some days can go really crazy. You look at the last couple of years, shops car counts have been through the roof.
Yeah, I want to get to that. Post-COVID, like I've mentioned this on the show, like, March, April, we gathered our hands together. We sang, we lit candles. We had no idea what COVID was going to bring. And then about April, May, for the most part, the floodgates were open. The consumer was flush. They wanted to get out. They wanted to spend. They had to catch up on their maintenance. And I have never, and I've experienced 2000.com bubble. We experienced September 11th, and I experienced the 2008 correction. I had never seen anything like it. Were you having shop owners call you complaining about that pain? Too many cars. We can't slow it down. It's almost unmanageable.
Yeah, and in fact, we have a scorecard we monitor all of our clients with, and you can see how the numbers were ticking up. And where the pain began to come in is when they've got 4-week out waiting lists. God,
that rumbles my stomach. I may get some hate on this, but man, I get nervous just having folks 2 days out. And we're a busy garage.
Well, yeah, and that's, you should be. And this is, but what's great about having a 4-week long waiting list is you can begin to pick and choose. You can start to go, this customer is a little more challenging than the others.
Well, you can dial in. And for those listening, again, this is some really deep industry talk. If you're behind the wheel, you're like, oh, my God, what did they just say? The fact is, we got to choose our battles. Let's just face it. Most of you that are working in any industry know that we can't be heroes to everybody. That's just the bottom line. And so a fair business practice is to do our best with the folks that we have in front of us and to give everyone the amount of time they deserve. And what we're saying here is COVID really stretched that out because we weren't going to compromise and cut corners on the service you deserve, but we were challenged because the uptick was real.
It really was. And what's interesting too, and Frank, you're probably thinking the same thing. Economically, we're seeing what our country's going through right now. So will we see these 4-week 2-week long waiting lists. I don't know, but this is the time as a shop owner to start planning for maybe you need to market.
Well, this is the deal. When I, always try to treat our place, as if I had to answer to board members, and I was telling the staff and crew very transparent. I don't know if we can reproduce this type of volume. I don't know that this sounds and feels like an anomaly. And many of you in the dry cleaning industry and whatever businesses you're in, you know this, and so we have to be conservative. And I want to talk more about, I arrive to your 20 group. What are the 1 or 2 habits that I develop that if you don't get me out of, it's going to be a huge problem? I want to hang on this break. We're going to take a quick break. When we get back, I want to address that. If you're just joining us, Vic Tarasic. Of course, I want to give a big shout out, Murray Voth as well. Get on to shopownercoach.com, as well as Murray's one of the Canada's most knowledgeable experts, rpmtraining.net. Welcome back, WrenchNation.tv. Get on to the website. Give us your comments there. Also, I want to make an announcement. Even Educational Foundation right here on campus is hosting their 16th annual fundraising breakfast on Wednesday, November 9th. You guys come on down. We got the culinary students. They're cooking up breakfast, gourmet style. Bring your wallet, people. We are raising money for the foundation. More info at ebitfoundation.org. Let's bring Vic Tarasic back in. Of course, Vic with shopownercoach.com. Welcome back, partner.
Thanks, man. Good to be back.
Yeah, and of course, Murray Voth, another great coach. We just barely missed to get him on the show. I want to give him a shout out as well, rpmtraining.net. Before we dive into some of the criteria that I mentioned before the break about what you really need to straighten me out if I'm new to this 20 group or else I'm just not going to make it, tell us about what you have coming up at the Automotive Aftermarket Parts Expo, Apex. Tell us what you got going on.
Well, man, so Murray and I, we're putting on a class. It's called What's a 20 Group and Why Should I Care? It's a condensed version of a 2.5-day class. So we're going to do it in a half a day. It's going to be real world training. For shop owners who want to come and experience, test drive a 20 group, this is a great time to do it. They'll get to experience what it's like to be in a coaching group, see the value of peer input, see the value of the training that comes in during it, the value of numbers review, and
so you're going to have a bit of an open book numbers review kind of thing.
Bingo, yeah. We're going to look at numbers and we're going to talk about them, but they're going to be all confidential. So
sure,
the shop owners that submit their numbers aren't going to have to worry about them being looking
in
like,
confidence. I love that, because otherwise it gets too touchy feelsy. Let's crack some books open. It's in confidence, and let's see if we can test drive the situation, and you're probably going to open a lot of eyes.
Yeah, and that's the key. I mean, I remember before I got involved with the 20 group, I had no idea what it was, but my back was against the wall, so I just needed help.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of information out there, and some people have heard about the power of 20 groups, and other mastermind, peer group, 20 group. There are all these different names for them, but ours is 20 group.
I think just connecting with other like-minded business owners that are humble and open about growing. I mean, I don't think you can ever entertain really a long-term play if you're not going to be open and real, because that's the benefit. Otherwise, you're just wasting your time, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, you're just there to hang out with
right.
guys.
I mean, the beer's at the bar, and I get that, but it's time to put some work in, and you got to be true blue. I come to you. I come to your class. You and Murray are teaching this class. And I'm a little pomp and circumstance. I'm a little more confident and cocky, so I think.
Right.
So I believe. And you realize, man, this guy can be helped, but he's a tough Bronco. What are 2 things that you are going to find about me, and you can keep it to 1, that you find very common with those that may feel like they got it better than they really do?
Well, I guess the first thing is understanding that asking for help is not a sign of weakness. Usually with that pomp and circumstance, the legend in their own mind covers up the fact that they really are not all that, but they're unwilling to ask for help. Asking for help is a sign of strength. in all of my classes, I always say their only stupid question is the one not asked. And for this reason, if you ask that question, there's 3 or 4 other shop owners who were hesitant to raise their hand, so you're helping them. And so that tough nut is it's like helping them realize it's like, okay, you aren't all that, without taking them down a peg. You don't have to take somebody down a peg. You just have to get alongside them, put your arm around them, kind of point them in the right direction. You know this, Frank. We know when we're wrong.
We do, and I tell you what, when you're amongst a bunch of grown men and women that are gonna hold you liable, and liable doesn't mean they're gonna crucify you. It means that they're gonna tell you, you know what, I'm doing the same thing right now. I'm here for this very reason, and so I don't imagine that you have a high rate of folks that show up and disappear. I think you and Murray and many of the other. Is it CAMP? Is that the coalition? What's the acronym for that?
Yeah, Coalition of Automotive Management Professionals.
Exactly. I would imagine that you guys have probably a good batting average because, there's a method and very few are going to leave, I would imagine.
Well, you're right, because you know what you get a trusted relationship, trusted advisor. And I always use the Star Wars analogy for those people who are Star Wars people. Are you a Star Wars person, Frank?
I am. I like all that Trekkie stuff.
All right. So think about this. Yoda, he was the Jedi Master.
Sometimes I wake up like Yoda, maybe.
Well, you are a wise man, Frank.
No, man, I'm wise and humble. I tell you what. But I like Yoda. Tell me more.
Well, so look what happened. Luke came to him and. He wouldn't listen right away. But yet when he submitted to the Jedi Master, what did he become? He became a Jedi Knight.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of what happens and he trusted Yoda. He went back and forth throughout the series, back and forth to talking to Yoda. Of course, he'd appeared him in different spots. But your coach is that trusted advisor, that person that you can talk to about anything. We've talked, you name the topic, we've talked to our clients about it. And what's great about this is everything that we hear is stuff that we've already heard from other clients.
I think what you and many of the coaches in the industry are doing, I wish I had done it much earlier. My first garage in 1995, first 5 years, a lot of folks know my story. I missed the first 5 years of my daughter's life. I was extremely busy, losing money. I couldn't afford to pay people well. It was a tough way to go. And even to this day, I ask myself, because it's a hard one to explain, but I will tell you this, I will never forget that. And I keep it humble because you don't want to get to a place where you plateau. Oh, I don't need this anymore. Do you find that? Let's ask that question. Do you have the rock star that's been with you for 5-10 years and decides, all right, I'm done with coaching? What could be wrong with that?
Wow. There's always something new to be learned. I'll go back to the NFL. The greatest quarterback of our generation, Tom Brady. He has a quarterbacks coach today, and he's been in the league for 25 years-ish. I mean, he's the oldest quarterback in the league, yet he still has a quarterback.
Yeah.
So, and it's not just the head coach; he has quarterbacks coach specifically to him. And one of the things that a coach provides is a sounding board. He also provides accountability, which a lot of shop owners don't want to hear. But
we can get lazy. We get lazy. We met a goal. We're happy. We're comfortable, and we're living large, and we're living proud, and things are well. And we think, okay, well, I can fudge it here and there because I'm comfortable. You find that. Well,
and if you're not, and the thing is too, Frank, if you're not growing, you're going backwards. And how do you really grow? By being pushed by either peers or by being pushed by your coach. And, those that want to leave the group, we encourage, stick in the coaching relationship. And what's great about the journey through the group is this is what's cool. In the first 3 years, you usually have that time in the group where you're the learning. And then the next 3 years is the refining. And then the next 3 years is helping the others behind you. And really becoming more of the mentor. And there's guys that stick in the group just from the fellowship standpoint. You remember our
no,
times
I've seen that.
Hang out at the bars. I mean, remember that steak joint we went to?
Yeah, no, there's definitely camaraderie. It's a feel good. Let me ask you something. We have a few minutes left. We talk about the importance of staying financially sane, but I'm sure you've got some great stories regarding actually seeing folks in the industry getting healthier. We're always trying to talk about the financial side, which we got to respect, but how many of us are so dang unhealthy mentally, physically, socially? Because we're beaten down. You've seen success stories there.
Well, yeah, and from the health standpoint, you're right. It can't, a successful business and a thriving business takes so much pressure and weight and stress. What's the number one cause of a heart attack? Stress. Obesity, stress. How about marriage breakups? That same thing. It's the stress of the business, and if the business is humming, you can focus on the most important things in your life, which are your family, your friends, yourself, your relationship with God. Those things are the most important. Business is just a vehicle to get us from today to retirement and beyond.
Designing your lifestyle, man. This is what I'm saying. It took me years to get that in my knucklehead to understand that you really can't chase anything. You really just got to try and do your best to design a life.
Right. Exactly. And it's full. If a shop owner is listening, it's all within their power to go the direction that they see. And that's the value of having somebody to give you valued input, whether it be a coach, whether it be in the peer group. And it's not just me or Murray. I mean, there's a lot of really good coaches out there, and that's where I go back to CAMP, Coalition of Automotive Management Professionals. It's just like restaurants. How many Mexican restaurants you got in Phoenix, and how many do I have here in Houston? A lot. And we've got our favorite restaurant that we'd like to go to, favorite Mexican restaurant down in the Woodlands. It's the same thing with coaches. You find somebody that serves the food that you like, and you stick with them.
Yeah, that comfortability of knowing that you can share some deep stuff and not worried about getting chastised, but also not, and I hate this word, but it exists, you don't need to be enabled, right? Sometimes pulling the Band-Aid off and really, towing your line the hard way, I think in the end is going to get you out of some bad behavior. Vic Tarasic, thank you so much. Visit shopownercoach.com for more details. And, of course, our friend Murray Voth. You can catch both Vic and Murray at Apex. I'll have that in the show notes. Murray Voth out of Canada, of course, serving North America. RPMtraining.net. Best practices in management, financial management, implementation systems, and so on. Thank you so much, Vic. I know this was last minute. You guys are doing amazing for the industry, and we appreciate you joining Wrench Nation.
Well, thanks, Frank. Glad to be here. Appreciate you having us.
Right on. Yeah, that's something to consider. I don't care what business you're in. If you want to grow, it's like a good athlete. They know you can flatline no matter how big shot of a thing you think you're in and how well you think you're doing. There's nothing wrong with growing in that direction and having a sounding board. So highly advise, if you're in the industry, get yourself a shop coach and peer up with the 20 group, because it's going to help you. We don't have all the answers solo, and we don't need that anxiety. I appreciate you guys hanging in studio. Miss Natalie, thank you for joining us. What happened? Your mic went down. Catherine, thanks for joining us. I appreciate you last minute hanging, giving me the younger demo approach about cars and stuff. Natalie, you rock.
Thank you.
Now go do your homework. Anyway, always enjoy hanging with you guys. Next week, we got Fireball Tim out of California. He's going to join us. Fireball Tim will be live. We'll have Greg Ovis back in studio. And, of course, Susie Sockett should be along for the ride. Appreciate you guys. If you have show comments, get into the comments section. Please give us a review or show idea. We'd love to hear from you. And always an open mic for anyone in your automotive organization. As I tell you every week, be safe, hug each other, and never forget to hug a mechanic.